Have you ever heard of the Toy Box Killer? He's a guy by the name of David Parker Ray. He did some really crazy stuff to a lot of unfortunate people in New Mexico, I believe in the 80s. And this weekend, there's a solar eclipse happening. A lot of stuff has happened in the history with it. We'll get into it on this Freaky Friday on Friday the 13th. Hey everyone, welcome back to ByteSized Talks. This is a Freaky Friday episode. We're getting in the Halloween spirit. My name is Gary, aka Hempy. With us, of course, over there is Julian with the bullseye in the middle of his forehead. Say what's up, man.
Hey everybody, this is Jupe. Hope everybody's doing well. Get ready for this Freaky Friday. We're gonna have some interesting topics today.
Let's go ahead and address that topic between your eyebrows. Way, what the hell? What's that going
I
on
know,
there?
dude. So I play soccer and I play goalie, and I was going for the ball as a guy was approaching me, and he lifted his hand and ended up scratching my eye or the between my eyes, and then I was just bleeding. So yeah, it was fun.
All right, so I think on the lighter side we have the topic of solar eclipses. So let's just jump into that one. Um, I know throughout history, solar eclipses, I think it's been widely talked about how Columbus used those.
Yeah,
Is that part of what you had to talk about? How he
yeah, it's
tricked
it's
some
one
of
of
the
the myths.
natives?
Yeah. So yeah, but I mean, for everybody who doesn't know, there's a solar eclipse going on this Saturday over the US. If you live in New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, Washington, and Oregon, you'll be able to see the full eclipse.
Breathe,
Sorry, I
breathe.
had a cough there.
Yeah.
And this will be around 8 in the morning towards Oregon and Washington, and around 10 in the morning near New Mexico.
Okay. Um. So solar eclipse. Why don't you just talk about the I almost said astrology, the astronomy of it.
The
Um.
astronomy of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to explain what a solar eclipse is.
Just people sometimes probably getting confused with other eclipses. Way.
So a solar eclipse is when the moon is between the earth and the sun and it blocks the sun completely. You can still see the rays around the moon, which is why it is not good to look directly at it. It could still blind you. And then a lunar eclipse is when the earth is between the moon and the sun, and you start to see like that red hue that it starts to uh, you start to see the red hue on the moon. So that's the differences between the two.
Cameron, when I was a kid, like I showed a lot of promise and I was, pretty bright. Uh, so much so that my dad called me the sun.
You're a fucking idiot. Oh my god.
I got to give credit to this guy named Mead out in California. That was his joke. I steal that joke all the time, but I always give him a footnote. I don't know. I can't remember Mead's last name, but Mead, if you're watching it, that's your joke, buddy.
It's better than the other one
um,
about the sun.
cover that he's waiting for his dad. Or what do you got?
That he's a vampire.
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll save that one for you know a sore subject day.
So yeah, let's get into the myths of solar eclipses. Uh, so one here, and I'll click or add the link for where I found these in the description. So a myth is that total solar eclipses produce harmful rays that can cause blindness. So that's a misconception in the sense that not looking straight at the solar eclipse will still make you blind. So people believe that if you're outside and the rays of the solar eclipse are hitting you, it'll make you blind. Obviously, that's a no. Only if you look directly at it will it blind you.
Okay, that seems like people should be able to read that. That's total bullshit. Of just going outside on a
Hey,
day is gonna make you
hey,
blind.
you believe flat Earth
I don't
discussions?
know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Do I have I ever claimed to believe them? I just say they're fun to listen to.
You say they make a compelling argument.
I say it's impressive that the argument of the bullshit they try to stack. Cabron, have you ever tried to stack dominoes or cards? It's fucking hard to get shit to stack up, right? And these fools build full on houses out of it. Like,
Another interesting one is if you're pregnant, you should not watch an eclipse because it can harm your baby. And that one, I understand why people are afraid of solar eclipses. Um, but if you think about it, it doesn't really change anything that the moon is in front of the sun. You might feel or the Earth feels a slightly stronger gravitational pull, but it's not enough, not enough to cause any differences. That's also another similar one to where a full moon has an effect on people and makes them crazier and whatnot. And I was reading an article the other day, and it said that you feel because people usually use the argument like, oh, if the moon can pull the oceans, then imagine what it can do to you that you're 70-80% water. Realistically, the gravitational effect of the moon on you is the same as 1,000 people being close to you within 10 meters, which, I mean, everybody in New York feels that.
I say, kind of that. That's kind of how I'd feel. That'd be like, what? Like, get the fuck away from me, dude.
The gravitational pull of 1,000 people at 10 meters. And you can go ahead and fact check me on that because I'm not sure if I got that right. But it was something similar to that.
I don't know. I don't like being in a crowded movie theater, let alone fucking 1,000 people within 10 meters of me. Fuck that.
Yeah, it's like for people like living in New York, there's easily 1,000 people near
But
you.
within 10 meters,
Again,
cabron,
you can fact check that. I don't know if I got that right.
within 100 meters, it would be like that would be pretty dense. But 10 meters, cabron. Think about a 10 meter room. You're in a 10 by 10 meter room right now, or 10 by 10 foot. So imagine the room 3 times the size that you're in with 1,000 people in it.
Okay, I want to pause the video real quick. All
All
right.
right, folks, so we're back. That is what you would call a brain fart on Julian's part.
I couldn't find it.
Hey,
I'll bring it on another episode. It's
uh,
actually pretty interesting.
yeah, I think he was at flatearth.com. All that shit you were talking to me about enjoying funny TikToks, and you're gonna pull some freaking pendejado of fucking the moon pulling people away and shit.
This is why you don't get your
Uh,
information from social media.
yeah.
Moving on to the next myth. Eclipses will poison any food that is prepared during the event. And dude, these are actual things that people believe.
I've never heard of that.
And it's
Um,
basically because they believe that the solar rays from the eclipse are harmful.
hmm. If anything,
Uh,
it would be blocking out a lot of the rays, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
uh,
Eclipses are harbingers, whatever the fuck that means, of something very bad about to happen. So that was
harbingers.
the one you
Like it's
mentioned. Harbingers. There we go.
yeah, foreshadowing.
Okay, that makes more
Yeah,
sense. Uh,
yeah, just a
yeah,
little chavette of history there for you, Coverin. A vocab chavette for you.
so yeah, that goes back to the topic to where um, the Spaniards use their knowledge of astronomy to scare the natives in Mexico and saying, if you don't sacrifice or give me your food and all that, my God will block the sun for a day. And sure enough, on the day they said that the sun was blocked, and so they would be scared, like, oh no, the gods are angry. So they'd give their food to the Spaniards.
Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson tells a much more detailed story on Joe Rogan about that, and for one of the many
Yeah.
reasons to hate Christopher Columbus. Um, yeah, it's
Was it Christopher Columbus?
yeah, I believe that was Columbus as well. Because like, yeah,
Okay.
Columbus is just an asshole, man. Like,
Yeah.
I've heard things like people are like tribes and stuff were already at war before European explorers came here. Um,
Yeah.
but I think they just exacerbated things by joining different sides. And again, I'd never got into that real depth in that part of America or North American history. But Columbus was heralded as like a great explorer, and it was a very much a altered part of history where you learn about all the atrocities that they put on to all the native people. Um,
Yeah.
but I didn't mean to eclipse your story there, way.
You eclipse a lot of things, especially in the movie theater way.
At least I fucking remember my facts the way.
Your flat Earth facts.
It's fucking easy to remember, Cabrón. There's fucking two dimensions to them.
Stupid. All right. And the last one I'll give is the moon turns completely black during a total solar eclipse. Um, it does look black. Obviously, that's because the sun isn't hitting it, and we can't really see it. Or the sun isn't hitting that side of the moon, so it looks dark. It's like nighttime
Now, this
in
is where
our.
color theory gets interesting because technically everything is black until it's in fact reflecting light, right? Like
Well, the color black is the absence of light.
um,
Yeah.
lack of reflection of light. So that's the thing. Like, do you know the color of a room until you turn on the light? Like, you don't. If it was a pitch black room, you would not be able to deduce color. And even then,
Yeah.
like, if your
That's
shirt's
true.
reflecting blue, people are seeing blue. Is your shirt's absorbing other colors? So is your shirt?
Yeah. The
So
the rest of the
is your
spectrum.
shirt actually internally like a different color? And it just it's like a kind of a mind fuck because it's reflecting a color. Does that mean that like that's what it's reflecting? That's not what it's accepting. That's not it. Is it itself something different?
God damn.
Right?
That's weird to think about. Yeah. Because at that point, then a
Yeah.
white shirt is all the colors
Yeah.
then. It's not white.
um, so that's the way color theory works. Like the little green
Oh
guy,
god.
that's different from the material here because it's reflecting a combination of rays back to make that to your eyeball. Um, so when you start like getting into like optical physics and stuff, things get a little weird. But I remember learning that, and I was like, okay, so if it's
Yeah.
reflecting that, is that should we categorize it? We chose to identify it based off the observation of what we're seeing from it. But maybe from the inward out perspective, it's not
Yeah.
actually that. Like,
Yeah, it's like the blue light blockers, the
yeah,
glasses that block blue light. And like you look at it like, why are they yellow? It's like, oh, because they only let in yellow light and they don't let the blue light go through. So it's weird to think about it. And I
mhm.
mean, we can get more into it in another
Okay.
episode, but
So
it's
let's
pretty
get
interesting.
to the actual uh Julian story was only like PG freaky. This one is I'll put a warning. What we're gonna talk about in this is actually horrific. It's really fucked up. To put it simply, the story of David Parker Ray, aka the Toy Box Killer, um, was one I actually didn't hear about until I moved to New Mexico. Thinking just this and that. Somebody's, oh, did you ever hear the Toy Box Killer? And I was like, the who? The fuck? And when he was telling me the story, I was like, dude, this actually sounds like an episode of Criminal Minds, which I think I noted here. Yeah, if you guys are Criminal Minds fans, go look at season 2, episode 13 and 23. That guy had a lot of similarities, and I think that's what they kind of modeled it. They made him into more less sexually driven and more just sadistic in Criminal Minds. But David Parker Ray, I think in hearing his story, uh, he's definitely somebody who was turned into a serial killer. Do you know like what I'm getting at when I say that?
So someone who's completely normal and then
Yeah,
some life-changing
yeah.
event
Had
happened and he
he
turned into a serial
grown
killer?
up in a different household, different mentor, he might have had a
Yeah.
chance. But the way he was raised, um, just really twisted up his perceptions of the world, and it actually carried on through his children.
Okay.
Oddly enough, um,
Oh,
so when he
shit.
was a kid, uh, I think yeah.
Alright, hold on. Are you gonna tell a story now? I'm gonna try some effects, so cue the creepy music.
So I think every little boy at some point tries to access some nudity of women and some like like be it trying to look at magazines and oh shit like that curiosity starts coming into play, and now the internet makes it far too simple. But I remember walking home and like going to the liquor store and like walking by the chip aisle next to the other aisle which had like the nudie magazines and like they go hey what like oh shit. um Growing up though, his dad provided him with like really intense like porn, like tying people up, like that extreme BDSM type stuff. Like,
Yeah,
and again, the people who are into that do your own thing, but for a kid, like that's what he starts to make connections with sexually.
yeah,
Really had him having these like perverse fantasies. Um, he eventually got a job working at a like a sanctuary. New Mexico actually has a lot of lands that are groomed and kept for nature preserves. So this is down like the Elephant Butte, Truth or Consequence area, the lake down there. Um, Truth and Consequences is the name of a town in New Mexico. The rest of the world doesn't know that. Like it's a TRC for short. And there's a city called Elephant Butte, which looks like elephant butt, but it's Elephant Butte. But he worked there as a handyman. He worked on engines and fixing things and little odds and ends, customizing little things to put around the premises. But growing up as a mechanic, he learned how to build. He learned how to fabricate. Um, and so he started making these drawings of all these torture devices he wanted to put for all these women. Um, he worked, and there's like these kind of just these little twisted fantasies. Um, he had I think he was married twice. The first wife left him after I believe he told her like what he was into. And I think she even stayed with him after he said like he's killed somebody before.
oh
And
shit.
yeah, but when he was older, like I think in his 50s, he actually had saved up some money. Um, Now, people who don't live in a rural area probably don't think you could have like a torture chamber in your front yard. But if you're living out in a place like TRC or out there in these desert regions of New Mexico, you could buy an acre of land pretty cheap. Your neighbors aren't going to be by you. So he ends up building this thing he calls the toy box. He spends like 100 grand buying this
Fuck.
thing, sound insulated. Um, he had all sorts of things. So he made like an ankle spreader for his victims, but not just one for like kept her legs, wide enough for him to have access to her, like wide enough to where like they would like dislocate the hips.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, so his thing wasn't purely sexual. It was let's degrade this woman. Let's make
Yeah.
her into this it took away the human element from these women so much so that he would have friends come over, neighbors. Hey, I got a girl in there, and these people would be like, all right, and he had all these rules like, don't believe them. They'll make all these excuses. They'll promise you money, this, that, and you free them. They are just here for one thing, and that's to receive you in a sense. He also would do things like he would use dogs on the women, trying to get the dogs to interact and stuff. Sometimes like maybe like putting like uh, cans of dog food on their private parts, so the dogs would have to go and like lick it off. Right?
What the fuck?
Yeah. So the dude was into really, really perverse shit. Now, what eventually happened is he had a victim. Uh, the way he got her was he claimed that he was a cop. Okay, uh, this lady was working as a prostitute, and he said, "Oh, hey, you're under arrest. Come with me." So she didn't want any trouble. Thought he was a cop. He had a badge. Goes with him. He ends up drugging her. Wakes up. She has like a dog collar on, right? And he would do this like hypnosis track. It was like 2 hours long, where he was like saying everything he was gonna do to him. And I think it's accessible on YouTube. Some the video I watched, they said like it's on there. Um, but he'd have them listen to this, but he's like explicitly saying, "I'm gonna do this to you. I'm gonna do this." Um, but it was a brainwashing thing in the sense like that's not how he kind of put it forward. But um, what happened to this lady, the victim who escaped, she was there. She had actually moved out of the toy box. He was keeping her for a while. She was in the house, but she was supposed to be chained up. And his wife at the time, who was supposed to be watching her while he was at work, left the keys in reach of her. So the girl who was chained up was able to get the keys, escape, and like went running down the road. Help me! This guy, like totally terrified. Um, some neighbor actually saw the girl, let her come in, um, called the cops. Cops were like, "What the fuck? Like this is too crazy. What are you talking about?" Um,
Yeah.
Ended up, arresting him. But this is like where all the details start rolling out about David Parker, right? This toy box killer. Um, so again, his childhood totally screwed up. Um, and he actually, he had his own kids. He imparted them to this. So like one of his daughters is the drug dealer. She actually would help him get victims.
Oh, fuck.
Even somebody she went to school with was one of the victims.
Fuck.
So the girl was just at a party and she's like, "Oh hey, like I know you." They're having fun. Like at the end of the night, she's like, "Man, like I don't feel right. Like something's wrong." She had been drugged by that girl, by her friend, the toy box killer's daughter. She's like, "Can you take me home?" Because she trusted this other girl in the bar.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll take you. And she took her to the dad's house.
Shit.
Brought her dad somebody for the toy box. But yeah, he would just systematically abuse these women, dude. He had all sorts of sex toys. Like one of those, like a giant dildo, but at the base of it had nails pointing upward.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. He made a system or a series of of penetrating machines, like things that are like on like a jigsaw type of repeated thing. But he would have like these huge dildo, and it was just like he would leave them hooked up to it for hours.
Fuck.
So that's the thing, like, and like he wouldn't even be there watching. He would just like hook him up and go. So he probably got off on the idea of the control element and like the degradation and so it wasn't even like again like a physical kink he was getting out of it. It was mostly like a mental. Yeah, he did rape these women. He had other people rape, but I think that's what he liked was like imposing his will upon them.
Yeah.
It's estimated that he had about 60 victims over the years, but here's the thing: he died while he was like being incarcerated. He got sentenced to 224 years. Died of a heart attack shortly after going to prison.
Oh shit.
So he didn't even like serve much of a sentence. But
he wouldn't have lived in prison. They would have killed him probably.
I mean, like, if he's on death row though, or like like he might have been in like protective custody, knowing.
Oh yeah.
But he claimed that since the age of 14, he died at the age of 62, but that at the age of 14, he was killing at least one woman a year.
Fuck.
So here's where some other shit kind of starts coming out. What's in, for the folks who aren't familiar with Elephant Butte, what's the big thing there? Way, do you know?
Besides the lake.
Oh, the lake.
Yeah,
What do you think he used the lake for?
to throw bodies in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that Elephant Butte is notorious for people either throwing themselves in there and dying, cars being found in there, just a bunch of things that happen there.
Yeah, so they looked, but like they didn't want to like drain the lake. That was gonna be too much money to look for victims. Apparently, he got better and better at like keeping victims and tying them down, doing things like putting rocks in their stomach, then sewing them back up with like a chicken wire type deal, so that they would
Damn.
remain at the bottom. So, for those people who like to go to Elephant Butte to go boating and have a good time, just something grabs your pata, just make sure you're like, ugh.
Oh
um,
shit.
but again, but he would actually release his victims. Like some of them were actually like he released, and he would
Yeah,
like
in the fucking lake.
catch and release, throws her back in the water. It's terrible.
So stupid.
It's so terrible. Um, but no, like there's another victim um, that actually like once the story got out, like and police like put it out there, or they found a picture of her. That was what it was. They found a picture, and like they're able, like she had a very weird tattoo. Sent it to the FBI. FBI were able to identify her. Like, oh hey, there's a woman who has a similar tattoo. It's come on, you might be in a database somewhere. Like,
Probably.
yeah.
There you go. Have another look.
That and the chicken stretch you have on your ribs way. um, but yeah, she was a. They brought her, like, oh hey, we have can you come down here? We would like to talk to you. She couldn't really remember the incident. Like, she was
Oh
so
shit.
traumatized by it that she just kind of
Yeah.
like had to bury it. Like, how could you like move on with your life, like living through that? And like, it was only
Yeah.
through like talking to her that like she began to remember certain elements. And again, this guy was not operating on his own. His wife was given a 36-year sentence. Um, his daughter only got a 2-year sentence, but that's because he said, "Give my daughter a lighter sentence, and give it all to me." And um, again, see, it's estimated up to 60 victims, maybe like 40 to 30, because he used to keep a journal. And he used to write down meticulously what he would do to them. The problem was it fiction? Right? Like,
Yeah.
that was the legal
That's true.
argument. Because he would actually take photos, but he'd typically burn them. He wasn't holding on
Yeah.
to all this stuff. So I think he had enough smarts to him to know not to hold on to all this stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, this guy just had this trailer essentially that he set up as like a professional torture chamber. Um,
Damn.
and New Mexico, the police, whoever was governing this, decided, you know what, like maybe we should open up the toy box for people, to the public, for them to come through and look at it in hopes of maybe other people would see it and be like, I remember. Oh shit, somebody told me a story about this. But then they had to shut it down because it became like a tourist attraction.
Yeah.
Like
I was
from
gonna say there's
some weird people went over
out
there, like, looking to see what they could just kind of like just kind of into that murder, torture, like all the serial killers, like they have a huge, not a huge, but a fan base, which is sad to say. um yeah, but this guy, if you go watch like a full-blown documentary on him, David Parker Ray, um uh the devices he engineered, like these aren't things you could buy. Like, he had an engineer like making like dildos out of like PVC pipe, like
Fuck.
like a 4-inch PVC pipe, and
Yeah.
like that's across, not length. Like,
Oh fuck.
yeah,
As girth.
yeah. um, so like he was making all these things to use on these women, and he had like all these super creepy sayings and stuff that like he had like on the walls of the trailer, and like So as the women were sat there, because he had like a gynecologist table, um, but they had to sit there and just be tortured again, not by just him, but by his wife, by his neighbors, by dogs. Uh, the amount
Dude,
of
that's wild that he used dogs on him. What the fuck?
yeah, the amount of abuse that he put these people through is seemingly unparalleled. I mean, outside of like cutting off limbs, um, it's this is something like it's literally what like horror films are made out of. Like
Yeah.
hills have eyes type of shit. Um,
Which that was filmed in New Mexico too, right?
was it?
I think it was. Yeah.
It might have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but that's the story of the toy box killer. I didn't want to get into a lot of the details just because I think it's beyond what's like worth sharing. Honestly, like I don't want to glamorize what he did at all or like show any type of respect to what he did. Um, he like they said did things. He was involved in like women trafficking. So like he was even like selling his victims to like other people. They say like that was potentially what he was doing. But again, all these things weren't able to be substantiated due to him like having a heart attack. Um, and like because maybe he would have been willing to make deals for more information or confessions, but um, that's not something that happened. But yeah, it's unfortunate. The women he typically targeted were like prostitutes, and unfortunately for those women, when they go missing, nobody cares. Right?
Yeah.
It's oh, she was a prostitute. It's a dangerous life. She probably just moved to another city. She probably just her pimp sent her somewhere else. Like,
That's the thing about women that are prostitutes is that it's hard to keep track of them because of
yeah,
the life they're in.
yeah. By I mean they don't have a W-2. They're not paying taxes.
Yeah.
They're not going to be working in the same area. They move around. They get moved around. They get traded.
Yeah.
Like they're essentially treated as a like
Not a commodity, tool.
a commodity. Yeah, like a piece of like livestock. Essentially, is how they're viewed
Yeah.
by the people who handle them and abuse them. Um,
Which soft white underbelly does a really good job at looking into the lives of these people and interviewing them.
yeah.
It's a really good show. I recommend that.
Yeah, and I mean, and a lot of people who like to get there, like it could be a substance abuse problem that just
Yeah.
got beyond their means, or people came here from another country who just were had to, what they would call like a coyote, somebody who was like smuggling them in, who just took advantage of them and sold them
Or
into a
just
life.
grew up in that lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah, we're groomed to be it.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the big tragedy about this because it's not just makes you wonder like if his dad was involved in similar shit as David Parker Ray. Um,
Could be. Yeah.
was it like a family legacy? His daughter, the fact that she had no problem bringing women to him,
Yeah.
uh, just shows that like when you meet somebody, this doesn't excuse their crimes, but it's just like fuck, man. Some people honestly just like don't have a chance. They might have been maybe he might have been wired from the get go wrong. There are just psychopaths
Yeah.
out there, but I think this is definitely a case of nurture over nature with this guy. That
Yeah.
um, his upbringing was just so perverse um, that it morphed him into becoming a monster that again um, not worth celebrating, but knowing his story, it is part of there is a huge appeal around serial killers, true crime stuff.
Yeah.
Um, Part of it, I guess we could say, is education and awareness. Part of it's intrigue because it's so weird and different. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's what we have about the toy box killer. There's other people who go far more into the details. There's recordings of one of the victim who got away of her actually giving an interview. You could go find and listen. Um, but yeah, this is just a cautionary tale. If you get arrested by a cop, demand to speak to a lawyer. Do not try to bargain your way out of it. Uh, call for a supervisor. Don't allow yourself to be taken advantage of. All these things, again, easier said than done. But if you enjoyed the episode, I know it's kind of a downer, kind of a low moment. But let us know what you thought. Give us a like, a subscribe. If you want to hear more stories like this, similar to it, if you want us to keep the Freaky Friday thing going on beyond October. Um, got anything else, Julian?
No, that's it. Like and subscribe. Yeah, send us a message through our social media or just comment on here if you're interested in any of these stories or interested in adding any story to this. We'll be happy to add it if you guys like. And take care, everybody. Have a great weekend.